As you know, this is a presentation of the Professional Development Committee of IMAA, who John Goldsberry is our fierce leader there, and he's also our speaker for today. Just setting up for next week, our number 4, Lunch and Learn, we're still putting that together. The topic is going to be Excel. Excel basics and points for Excel. Still working on identifying a speaker. I have something that's promising. I'll get back to Katie and John on that. So hopefully that will develop to what we want it to be, and we'll be ready to announce that. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to turn my camera and my microphone off. I'm going to be in motion here and let John take it over. John?
All right, welcome guys. And for those that don't know me or may watch this recording later, my name is John Goldsberry, and I'm in sales with Mulzer Crushed Stone in Southern Indiana. I've got a background in computer graphics, computer programming from Purdue University, and I still utilize quite a bit of those tools on a daily basis, and consider myself somewhat tech savvy. I'm not the biggest computer nerd in the room, but I feel like I'm pretty good at it, and wanted to share some hotkey basics, shortcuts, tips and tricks. And you know, as I was putting this presentation together, I learned a few things myself. As you guys know, there's a lot of different tools you can use on a computer, on a phone, in different applications, and there's no way you'll ever learn them all or use them all, but they are very handy if you learn to use a few of them on a consistent basis. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys, and we're going to go ahead and jump into a PowerPoint presentation that I've thrown together, and I will also be using other applications as well as we move along here to show you examples of how some things work. So just getting started here, I've just thrown together a little intro. Had to make my profile image here dance a little for you just for a little fun. But anyways, kudos to Bryson Fulkerson for the great profile pictures a while back through Mulzer Crushed Stone. But don't have my suit and tie on today, nor do I many days of the week, but you know, I've got a nice image here to use from a professional standpoint. So universal hotkeys, tips and tricks, keyboard shortcuts to save you time. So we'll jump in here real quick. What is a hotkey? A lot of people may not know what a hotkey is. So hotkeys are considered combinations of keys that are used simultaneously as shortcuts to you know, use different functionalities on a keyboard without moving your mouse around to click on something 2 or 3 times, right click, and then click another button, so on and so forth. You know, an easy example that a lot of people may use is the Control-C hotkey. You know, you use those 2 keys interactively, and it will copy an item or text. And we'll go through some more of those, but that's just a simple example. But long story short, hotkeys will make you more efficient, and they are a combination of keys used at the same time to achieve a functionality. So the universal understanding of it, hotkeys, you know, as they may work in certain applications through Microsoft Office, and also through internet browsers and things like that, we all kind of need to have a universal understanding that these hotkeys may work in multiple applications, or they may only work in one application. And in some instances, they may do different things in different applications. So just have that understanding that just because you use a hotkey in Microsoft Word and it does one thing, it may do something else in Excel or something else in Internet Explorer or whatever. But these hotkeys that I'm going to show you today, a lot of them are very basic, and for the most part are universally used throughout different applications. And I will give some examples along the way for Microsoft versus Mac as well, because I do realize we have some Mac users I used both actually. We'll dive into that a little bit. The hotkey Control B, if you look at the bottom here of the screen, Control B is the hotkey that will format text from a regular font to a bold font. And for instance, you can bold text in Microsoft Word. We all know that. You can bold text in Microsoft Excel. But if you're using the Notepad application, for instance, and you use the hotkey Control B, you're gonna notice that you cannot format your text with Control B in there. So just one little small example of how a hotkey works in one application and doesn't in the next. And I realize some of this is elementary to some of you guys, but I wanted to make sure we touch those points in this recording and in this presentation for anybody out there that does not have that knowledge yet, that base knowledge of hotkeys. So some of you may get overwhelmed, and as I show you some of these hotkeys, you're going to be sitting back thinking, there's no way I'm going to remember all this. There's no way I'm going to use all this. It's way too difficult. I don't have time to sit here and try to figure all these hotkeys out. So just understand, you're not going to use all of these. I don't use all of them. I can't remember all of them. Like I told you guys initially, I learned a lot as I was throwing this PowerPoint presentation together just to get some starting points for everybody to get a good understanding of what hotkeys are and what some of the hotkeys are that are available. I've learned a little bit myself. Don't get overwhelmed. Your mind's not going to blow up, and whether you use all of them that I show you or some of them, you will become more efficient in what you do every day. Most of you probably already use several of these. This is really something just to help you build on that and maybe learn a few extras and become more efficient in what you do on a daily basis. Microsoft versus Mac. For the most part, do we have any Mac users on the call right now? Anybody using Mac currently? Looks like I got a bunch of no's. So, and that's usually the case, especially in a professional setting. Most IT programs in the business world use Microsoft Windows. They use, you got your Dell, your HP laptops, for the most part, Lenovo. That's kind of what you see across the board because they're simple to use. They've got good plans that work with companies from a financial aspect. And it's just the norm, so to speak. Now, Macintosh has some great devices as well. Macintosh, Apple have some great devices, and they've all got their pros and cons, just like all your vehicles floating around. Everybody likes a Ford versus a Chevy or vice versa, and they've all got the good things and the bad things that come along with them. But I wanted to touch base just to show you guys kind of the difference between the two keyboards. One thing you'll notice are the keys right next to the space bar, and that's really your biggest difference. The control key, which I will dive into for the Microsoft applications here shortly, the control key is basically the same thing as the command key or vice versa on the Macintosh keyboard. So in an instance where you're going to click Control-C to copy on a Microsoft keyboard, you would use Command-C on a Mac. And that gets a little confusing because there is also a control button on the Mac, as some of you can see there. So we'll dive into that a little bit. Again, I'm going to focus more on Microsoft today, but wanted to let you know and give you a little background knowledge on the differences. So modifier keys. Some of you may have never heard that term, but a modifier key, those are special keys or combinations of keys on a computer that temporarily modify the normal action of another key. So if you look at the highlighted keys here, and again, this is a Microsoft keyboard, you see the caps lock, the shift button, the function, control, Alt and Windows buttons that I've highlighted here, those are usually used in combination with another key on the keyboard to create a shortcut or a hotkey. And I think that pretty much makes sense to most people that are listening in, but wanted to highlight that. Those are, like I said, those are called your modifier keys, and those are kind of your starting point for hotkeys. So same goes for a Mac. These are your Mac modifier keys, very similar. Again, you'll notice there is the command key in place of where the control key usually is on a Microsoft computer or keyboard. But again, they're very similar. Just wanted to throw that out there so people can take a look at it and understand which keys are the modifier keys on the keyboard. All right, so for example, we're going to dive into some specific examples of what some hotkeys are. And for the sake of being elementary and simple and keeping this short and sweet to give people a little bit of a base, I wanted to use hotkeys that didn't necessarily include more than 2 keys. I've got a few in here that include 3 keys. But there are, some hotkeys out there with combinations of 3 and 4 keys to make certain functionalities work. A lot of these are simple. They're basic. You probably use quite a few of them while formatting text, and then you're going to look at a few of these and go, "Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize you could do that." And again, that happens to me a little bit every once in a while as I'm either fat fingering my keyboard by accident and something happens and I go, "Whoa, how did I do that?" And then I have to figure it out, or putting a presentation together like this and finding something that I didn't know existed. So just wanted to start out, like I said, the control button, that is a key that is used quite often for hotkeys, and I wanted to go ahead and go through some of these. And I'll just kind of go down the line here, and I understand some of you guys may use some of these already, but I wanted to go through and show you how some of them work. So Control A, you can select all text. So on my keyboard, and again, I'm in Microsoft Word right now using this document. Can you all see the Professional Development Committee meeting minutes that I have?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So if I wanted to select all of this text, again, I'm going to bounce back and forth a little bit. I'm going to click on Control A, Control button plus A at the same time to select all text. So as I do that in Microsoft Word, you'll notice everything is selected. So I've held down the Control A button and I selected everything. Pretty simple. We've got the Control X functionality, which is actually what you would use to cut the text. So if I wanted to cut the text, I've selected it all, or whether I want to highlight and select something specifically, I can hit Control X and cut that text out. The next thing I can do is I can also copy that text using Control C. And you guys can follow along and try this out in your own document along the way if you want to. Again, I'm using Microsoft Word for this presentation. These hotkeys are pretty universal. It doesn't matter if you're in PowerPoint, Excel, Word, Outlook. If you're on an internet browser filling out a form for an event you're going to, a lot of these hotkeys will work. So I'm going to copy Katie, Control C, and then I'm going to use the Control V to paste. So I've copied Katie's name, and now I'm going to paste it. So now I've got 2 Katies. So that's your Control C, your Control V to copy and paste. You'll notice right here at the bottom, I've also got Control plus Insert and Shift plus Insert. Those hotkeys will also do the paste functionality and the copy functionality. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes there are multiple combinations of hotkeys that will do the same function as well. So moving forward, if I wanted to create a new window or document, in an application. I can do Control N quickly. So if I need a new document, instead of coming up here to File and clicking on New and selecting blank or selecting a template, so instead of doing all of that, I can simply click Control N and I've got a new document. So as you see there, we've eliminated maybe 1 or 2 seconds, but if you do that hundreds of times throughout the year, all of a sudden you're gaining time. So that's one little way to open up new documents quickly. Control S is the save functionality. So if I wanted to save this document, again, instead of going to File, Save, and typing in, you know, if this was a new document, obviously it would ask me to title it, or if I wanted to do Save As, it would go through that process. But instead of doing all of that, I can simply hit Control S, and the document has been saved. You may not see some action there, but it has been saved. So that's a quick way to save a file. If I wanted to print the document, I can come back into the document here and Control P, P as in Paul, will bring up my print preview screen. So I'm ready to print. Obviously I can change my settings, but again, this is eliminating a few clicks on your way to printing a document. Control W will actually close a window. So if I've got multiple Word documents here, so I've got, as you can see, I've got document 1 and I've got the minutes. If I wanted to close the minutes, I'm going to do Control S because I want to save it, and then I'm going to do Control W to close it. It's gone. It's real simple. Again, that's a few more clicks I've eliminated. If I want to reopen it, I actually don't have this one on here, but it will be in the list that I'll give you guys for a reference. But if I want to reopen it, I can do Control O, the letter O, and go back and find my minutes, and there it is. Now it's open again. So Control O will reopen a document for you. It'll give you the list and the ability to open. So that's your hotkey there. Undo, redo. I know everybody on this call is perfect and they don't make any errors. They never mess up when they're doing anything. So you guys probably never use this Control Z button, but I'm going to tell you right now, I use it every single day, multiple times. And Control Z is great. It's quick. And then I also use the Control Y feature as well to redo things. So undo and redo. So if I come in here and I delete Katie from the list, and that was an accident, I do not want her to be gone, I can Control Z to make her appear again and undo that action. So any actions that you take, you can undo, redo, and Control Y will give you the redo, and it'll just go down. You know, you can go through and it'll undo or redo as many actions as you want it to, if that makes sense. So, and when I say actions, previous actions that you've taken within that application. Control Y is the redo. Control F is find and replace. If I need to find something in this document, for instance, I'm going to hit, instead of coming up here and going through the menus to do a find and replace up here through the ribbon, I can do a find, click, click, click. I can simply do a Control F and find John Goldsberry within this document. There it is, and I can simply go through and find whatever I need. Obviously, you can do find and replace and things like that as well, but Control F is your hotkey to find things within documents or within web browsers. I will tell you this, if you are on a website that was built in Silverlight, it will not give you some of these hotkeys, especially the Control F feature to go through and search for things. That can be a little frustrating at times, but obviously, you know, there are reasons why things are built with Silverlight technology and so on and so forth. But just keep that in mind that sometimes, once again, the universal understanding of these hotkeys is that it may or may not work across every single application. Formatting text, we've got bold and unbold with Control B. We've got italicize with Control I, underline with Control U, and obviously these are just some of the formatting hotkeys. There's more out there that I'll send you guys some links to, but you know, if I wanted to bold Kim Williams, I'm going to Control B. If I want to italicize, I will Control I. If I want to underline, I will Control U. And that formats all of that for me, rather than going to up here and clicking on multiple things, or going to the format tab and going through and doing, you know, clicking a bunch of buttons. If you already know what you're going to do with the formatting, for the most part, you can do it quickly. And again, I use my undo, my Control Z hotkeys, or my Control Y redo to go back and forth there and change as needed. So there's some formatting hotkeys. Control Home and Control End will take you either to the home point, which is the beginning of your document. So you see my cursor is right here over bullet point number 2. If I hit Control Home, my cursor goes up to the top to the very beginning of the document. If I wanted to go to the end, I can hit Control End, and it takes me down to the bottom of my document. And in this case, it took me further because I have, as you can see, as I highlight, I've got a blank space in there. So if I were to backspace and get rid of those extra invisible spaces, I can go Control Home, Control End, Control Home, Control End. See how that works. So really basic, really easy. I'm going to hop out of Microsoft Word to my desktop for a minute here to show you guys how the Control Drag and the Control Shift Drag work. What this will do, this will help create files or create shortcuts to files. And to give you an example, actually, I'll just jump into my Explorer here. If I wanted to make a copy of my keyboard shortcuts PowerPoint, I could simply hold down Control, drag this to a open location, and it will create a copy. So real quick, instead of, you know, going through and if I wanted to make copies of all of these, Control, drag them, I've got copies. So really quickly, you can make copies of files if you need to. If I did this by accident, I can always use my Control Z to undo. So I'm gonna undo. Yes, I want to delete them. They're gone. I want to undo. Yes, I want to delete my copy. So I've just gotten rid of my copy. So again, that's your Control Z undo functionality working within a different application. In this case, it's Windows Explorer. Now, if you wanted to create a shortcut to a file, you could do Control, Shift, and drag the file. So if I hold down Control and Shift, and I want to create a shortcut to this file, I can drag it. Well, hold on one second. I can drag it, and now I've got a shortcut to that file. So real simple. And obviously, if you wanted to take this file and put it on your desktop, you could easily drag it and drop it to your desktop. And now instead of digging through folders and folders and folders to get to the image I have here, I can click the shortcut and it will take me to that file. It's going to open it up right now in Photoshop. So you get the idea there. So let me close this Photoshop real quick and jump back into my PowerPoint. Control Escape will bring up the Start menu. So if I hold down Control and I hit Escape, it's going to bring up my Start menu on my computer down here, which is the Start button. So that's a quick and easy way to get that open. And then Control-Alt-Delete, which I am not going to do for the fear of losing connection, will actually bring you to your reboot window, your Windows Task Manager window, so that you can go through and go to your Task Manager or change your password or switch to a new user or whatever it is you guys want to do with that. But that will bring you out, it'll somewhat lock your computer and take you to that login screen. So I'm going to pass on that one, but I believe most of you and the people listening to this recording will understand what that does, or you can figure that out on your own time. So, so does anybody have any questions, or were any of these new to any of you guys? I mean, obviously these are pretty basic and simple, and I'm going to give you some more, but any insight on what you've heard so far?
For me, John, whenever I go out, 99% of the time I forget my mouse, and so I just, as I noted down here, I knew some of them, but I probably picked up a good 7 or 8 that will help me out. So thanks for those tips.
Okay, great. I apologize for trying to get this screen up, but that was Paul talking, and I appreciate that feedback. I'm going to jump into the PowerPoint here again and show you guys what we've got in regards to the Windows key. And I know this icon is a little funky here, but it's, you know, it's really going to vary on every keyboard, but I'll jump to the Microsoft Modifiers keyboard real quick. This is the icon.
Hey, John, before you move on.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, when you have multiple windows open, is there a way to toggle between those windows without having to minimize one and go to the other? Did I see you do that?
Absolutely, there is, and I'm going to show you that one coming up next.
Okay, all right, I'll mute.
Yep. So the Windows logo, the Windows key here, is another modifier key that I'm going to show you some hotkeys and shortcuts with here shortly. And it's something that's pretty basic. A lot of people don't use it or are afraid to because they don't really know what it is. But it has some very nice and easy shortcuts that come along with it. So for instance, if I wanted to open or close my start menu, which again is down here in the corner of my screen, I can simply click the Windows button and it opens up. Here's something for you, Calvin. You wanted to hop to a screen. How about if you wanted to go directly to your desktop? You can hold the Windows logo key and the letter D as in dog, and it will jump straight to your desktop. So if you have multiple windows open and you come in here and, you know, for instance, if you have several applications open, say I've got my Word documents open, all these windows are open, I've got Chrome open, I've got PowerPoint, I've got Zoom, you know, you go down the list, we've all got a lot of different things open. If I start to minimize these, it's like, okay, when do I get back to my desktop? I've got way too much going on. Well, you can click the Windows logo and the letter D to get back to your desktop quickly. And if you wanted to minimize all of the windows except for the window that you're actually using, the active window, which in this case would be PowerPoint for me, I can do the Windows logo and the home button, and you will not see anything happen. But if I go to minimize my PowerPoint now, everything else is already minimized. They're no longer open, or they're open, but they're not maximized covering the screen. So if I wanted to minimize all windows, including the active window that I'm using in PowerPoint, I could do the Windows logo with the letter M. And when I do that, everything becomes minimized. All right, and as I jump into the next one here, you know, you got the Windows tab with the Shift button and the M button. This is a 3-key hotkey. This will restore the minimized windows to the desktop. So when I do that, you'll notice, let me open these back up real quick. And this one gets a little finicky sometimes. This is one that I'm still trying to figure out. For some reason, it will minimize at times, and then sometimes it will not. So, but if I do the Windows with the M, it will minimize all, and if I do Shift Windows M, it will bring them all back. So as you can see there, my PowerPoint comes back into play. If I wanted to, I'm going to minimize the zoom feature here. If I wanted to open my computer drive, instead of going all the way down to the start menu and then all the way up to computer to find my drive, I can actually just do Windows E and it will pop right open. Takes me right to my main computer drive. So that's a nice little feature. If I wanted to find or search within Windows Explorer, and for anyone that doesn't know, Windows Explorer is really this guy here, this thing that you use to go through and find files. You know, if I wanted to go to my documents or my desktop, this is your Windows Explorer. So if I held down the Windows button and F, it gives me a window here where I can search for anything. So if I wanted to search for font files, I'll type in font, and there's all my font files on my computer. I can go through and see them, and then obviously you can go search for other things. So if I wanted to search hotkeys, I'm sure there's my keyboard shortcuts that pops up my file. So it's searching all of your computer through Windows Explorer, and it's real simple to go get to that screen by simply holding Windows and the F button. To lock the computer, and this is something a lot of people like to turn their computer off every time they're done using it, and that's not necessarily a good thing in all cases. It can actually be kind of hard on your hard drive. I've heard both ways, that yeah, it hurts it, no it doesn't, whatever. For me, I hardly ever shut my computer down unless I feel like I'm noticing something that's out of whack on it or it's acting funny. But for the most part, I'll just hit Windows L to lock my computer screen. And basically, I'm not going to show you that again because I don't want to get disconnected from this meeting. But the Windows L functionality will basically log you off. And then when you go to get back on your computer using the Control-Alt-Delete buttons that I mentioned earlier, you can log back in, and then you're basically putting your computer to sleep rather than shutting it down completely, if that makes sense. So anyways, that's a button that I'm not going to show you, but you can test out on your own afterwards. Calvin, to answer your question, Windows logo button plus the T letter will cycle through the taskbar, which is down here. And so if you do that, if you hold down Windows and use the T button, you will actually see across the bottom that you can cycle through the taskbar and see some of those features. It'll jump to different things. There's also one that you can use. It's Alt and Tab, which I don't have here, but you can Alt and Tab to go through your different features or your different applications.
Yeah, that's the one I'm familiar with, Alt Tab, yes.
Yeah, and then there's also, let's see here, there's another one too that I was going to show. Of course, I don't want to jump off course here too much, trying too many things, because I don't want to disconnect with a hotkey that I'm unaware of. But there are some other ones as well that work very, very well with jumping from one application to another. And I'm going to figure that out here shortly, but let me get through these first. So to maximize a window, so if I had this window here, not necessarily maximized, but not completely minimized either, I could hold down the Windows button and the arrow up key, the up arrow, to maximize the window. So here I'm going to do Windows and the up key, and then again, if I use the down key, I can minimize it. So I'm holding down Windows and simply pressing the up or down arrow to minimize and maximize. If you notice down below, the next one would be the left arrow and the right arrow, and when I do that, the left arrow takes it to the left side of the screen, the right arrow brings it back to the middle, and then the right arrow again takes it to the right side of the screen. So you can simply organize your screens by using the Windows button and arrows. You see how I'm jumping around there. So that's kind of nice, and obviously it's not just tied to PowerPoint. You can do that with any window while you're using your laptop or computer. The Windows button plus the letter P, will actually give you your presentation display modes, and as you're holding the Windows key down and you continue to press the P button, it will jump to different modes of how you want to project or display your screen. So that's a quick way to get to that versus digging down through the start menu, the control panel, your system, and then display functionalities. So to get to it quickly, if you present very often, you could easily use the Windows and P functionality. Then you also have the Windows and X functionality, which will actually bring up your display brightness, your volumes, your battery life, your Wi-Fi networks, all of these different quick functionalities that you may want to take a look at or adjust on the fly. Again, you can come down to the bottom of your screen here and adjust some of these, but it requires several clicks. This is a quick way to see it all at once and make a small adjustment to your volume or your brightness of your screen or whatever it is you're wanting to do. So pretty simple, pretty hot little tricks there that you can use on a regular basis to speed things up. And again, there are hundreds of them, if not thousands of them, that you can use. And so with that said, at the end of this presentation here, on the last slide, what you can see is I've included 3 different links here. Microsoft Windows in general, hotkeys and shortcuts. I've included Microsoft Office hotkeys and shortcuts because we all use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook on a regular basis. And then also I included a link to the Macintosh or Apple hotkeys and shortcuts so that Mac users have those as well. You know, all you got to do is go out there and type hotkeys or shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts into Google, and you will see bukus, long listings of all kinds of different hotkeys and shortcuts that are available to you guys. I really need to find this cool 3D feature that I wanted to show you, Calvin, in regards to jumping back and forth. So give me 1 second here and I will do that, because I can't remember the exact hotkeys, but it is a nice feature. I'll have to, oh, here we go. The Aero flip. So the hotkey is the Windows key and the tab key, it looks like. So Windows and tab, or maybe it's Alt tab. Yeah, it's not giving me that functionality. It did earlier, but I'm wondering if it's because I'm presenting and sharing a screen. But essentially, rather than seeing this here, you would see this functionality here where the screens come up that are massive. They're at an angle here, and you can actually see almost the full screen and exactly what's showing when you do that. So the Windows and tab key is what it says that you should use for this shortcut, but for some reason it's not working on mine while I'm sharing my screen, and that's probably got something to do with personalized settings across the board for everybody. So when I am not sharing my screen and I use the Windows tab button, I actually see this functionality, which is what they call the Aero 3D Aero flip. So again, you know, lots of cool functionalities out there that people are not using on a regular basis simply because they weren't aware of them. And that's the point of this presentation, just to help you guys out, and hopefully the people that watch this recording will learn a little bit, and hopefully we're all more efficient. It looks like in today's unprecedented times, we all need to be and will have to be. So thank you all for your time. And do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, no questions, John, but just thanks again. I did pick up some good quick tips because like I said, I'm not a huge mouse all the time, but I thought I knew some of those, but obviously I gained some more, so thank you.
Yeah, and these were very basic, but click on the links at the end of the presentation. We'll send those out to you, and you'll be able to see them in the recording. But there are long lists, as you can see. I've actually got the URLs open here, but as you click on these, you can just see how many of them there actually are out there. Dialog box shortcuts. You can go down the list. I mean, it's very, very long, but a lot of neat things out there.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Hey, John, did you say you were going to provide a cheat sheet or something like that early on?
Yeah, I can provide you guys a cheat sheet. Really, that's what these links are, because they will stay updated and change as Windows and Macintosh change their and make their system updates. So the links are probably better than anything I can give you, simply because they will stay updated over time.
Okay.
So if you want to reference the Microsoft site and the Macintosh site with those links, that's probably your best reference.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking about all of. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, to add on that, that's probably the best suggestion, like John said, because it looks like, John, you're using Windows 7, and like I'm using Windows 10. So
Correct.
Some of those shortcuts are a little bit different on my end.
Correct. Yeah, and you know, they're gonna, like everything else in the technology world, they're gonna constantly change. So as soon as you get real familiar with one of them that you really like, there's a chance it could go away, or it could change a little bit. But 'tis the world we live in right now.
Yeah. Some great information, John. I really appreciate it. All of those things that you mentioned, there's an opportunity in everything that we do to utilize them, but trying to remember them is going to be the biggest challenge. So, you know, if it's something that you utilize and you do it every day or periodically, then you'll remember it. But if you don't use it, you have a hard time remembering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one or two of those things that you offer and put it in my tool chest and just continue to use those and make me a little more efficient. I really appreciate your presentation. Like I said at the start, that's some good information that not a lot of people are taking advantage of. I'm glad that we're recording these so that we can have them out there and direct people to them somehow, Katie.
Yeah,
and I think my favorite one is Control F today.
There you go.
So you could do the find. That's really good.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and like you said, Calvin, use a little bit at a time, get good with it, learn a few here and there each week, and you're gonna see a nice increase in your efficiency. That's for sure. The biggest problem is people just don't know about them. So hopefully this opens that door a little bit, and hopefully you all dive in a little deeper and learn a little bit about it and use them and get used to using them. And the way I like to say it, get more gooder.
Yeah, we all need that, John. Yes. Okay, anything else? Katie, you good?
All right, guys. Well, hey, have a great day. Have a great weekend, and go out and use those hotkeys.
There you go.
Father's Day to all the dads.
All right. See you later.
See you. Thanks, everybody.
everyone.